quantity leads to quality. I think it's a lesson that we understand in most of the rest of our lives, but for some reason when it comes to photography, we just don't kind of feel that the same remains true. If we want to master something, we need to repeat it many, many times over. The more repetitions we do, the better we're going to get. But for anyone who's learning something, you need to get those reps in and do the work and repeat it and repeat it. Learn from your mistakes and get better. You look at the work of a photographer called Vivian Maier. She spent most of her free time doing street photography. When she passed away, there are 100,000 pictures of hers just on film, sitting in rolls, in boxes that she hadn't even developed. Although she did see a decent amount of her work as well, she was shooting so much and I guess she couldn't afford to develop the film. She was becoming an excellent photographer and now is considered one of the great street photographers. But she got better by doing this massive volume of work, which a lot of it she didn't even see. But just the process of doing that work was making her better all the time. It's one of the things you'll see time and time again about good photographers is the amount of work that they've done, the amount of photographs they've taken. And what you need to be wary of is photographers that try to justify the quality of their work either with the camera gear that they own, because there's a lot of photographers that will buy a camera as a status symbol, as if someone will say, well, if they've got that camera gear, they must know what they're doing. That doesn't hold true. And the same goes for time. People say, I've been a photographer for 35 years. Well, so what? That's not interesting. What's interesting, and always the case, is just your work. That's the only thing that you can really say is interesting about what you do as a photographer. Your work is the thing that you should be focused on, not how long you've done something for, not how hard a shot was to get, and not the camera gear that you're doing it on. Because we all know there's a lot of bad photographers with good camera gear. Which brings me on to my next point, is stop protecting your camera. It's like if you've bought yourself a status symbol, a fancy watch of a camera that you want to display around to people, and that's the reason you bought it, you're going to protect that thing. You're going to put it on the shelf and you say, well, the resale value and blah, blah, blah. That's not why you buy a camera. If you're bothered about resale value and you're bothered about the condition that your camera is going to be in, you've bought a camera that's too expensive for what you want to do. You should have bought something cheaper that you're actually going to use, because there's no point. If you just leave it in the box, what's the point in buying it? There just isn't one. Only that you can put it on social media and say, hey, look, I own this now. It's like, that's not good enough. You know, that's not enough. If you're going to buy a camera, use it. Like, even if you spend loads of money on a medium format camera or something like that, you have to go out and then use it. Otherwise, there's just no point owning it. I mean, you can do what you want with your money. Don't get me wrong. If you want to buy cameras and put them on shelves, and you can do that thing, you know, when people surround themselves with a wall of lenses. If that's you, go for it if you want to do that. But you should be focused on getting camera gear that you're actually going to use and not spend beyond that. And if you've got money spare but you just can't bring yourself to spend it on a camera and then actually go and use the thing, use the excess money to go and do something interesting. I'm not against people having expensive cameras, it's just, do you use it? That's my question. And it doesn't even matter what level you are. If you've got lots of money and you're a beginner, buy yourself an expensive camera but use the thing. I also think that people should class themselves as beginners, and that can be even when they're just trying out a different genre. So you could be a master at one thing and a beginner at something else. Now, you might have a faster learning curve if you're already generally a decent photographer. Everyone should be happy with calling themselves a beginner if they feel like they need to, because when we class ourselves as a beginner, it gives us that breathing space that we need in order to experiment and fail and say, look, this didn't work and that didn't work, but I'm trying to improve it and get better. And that's just being realistic and unpretentious about what it is that you're actually trying to do. For instance, even for myself now, I regard myself as being good at portrait photography and good at wedding photography. But when it comes to street photography, I consider myself a beginner at that. And I'm okay with that, because so what? Who cares? It doesn't matter. And in fact, if I call myself a beginner at street photography, that takes away all of the pressure. Why would anyone expect me to perform in a genre that I'm not particularly familiar with? That's just unrealistic. And so for you, be happy to call yourself a beginner, because if you start to take your camera and say, look, I'm an expert, I'm a professional, or whatever it is that might make you feel like doing something along those lines, you set expectations from people, not just clients, but even just family members and other people around you, that they expect to see a certain level of result from you. Let's drop all of the kind of pretentiousness and ego and all of this kind of stuff. And my next tip for you is learn to edit, because the thing with digital, I assume most of my viewers are going to be using digital, is that digital, right, give me a chance to explain this. Digital is harder than film in the sense that I know that developing is more complicated and taking the shot in the first place is more complicated on film. But here's the thing. If I said to you, you need to take a portrait of someone and it has to look as good as possible straight out of camera. If you shoot that on medium format film versus a phase 1 camera, if you just take it straight out of camera, the organic nature, the analog nature of film is going to make that picture look a lot more appealing straight out of camera, assuming everything else is the same. Just a straight side-by-side comparison, the film picture is going to look better because of that analog nature of film. It introduces a sort of a roughness and variety that you're just not going to get with digital. The biggest problem with digital is that it looks digital. And that is why you see a lot of the time on my channel, I'm looking for sensors that are less digital looking. That's why I like the 5D Classic and some of the older Canons and some of the older Nikon's D700 and so on. These camera bodies look less digital than, say, some of the more recent ones. It's not always just an old camera thing, it's just whichever camera has a certain look. So I might find new cameras that have a less digital look. That might happen. It's not about the camera being old, it just happens that most of them are old because I guess they were trying to encourage people over from film until they figured out that they can sell sharpness and dynamic range to people, and then that was just way easier for manufacturers to compete on than it was to try to make a digital sensor with an interesting look. So when I come back around to talking about editing, it's really worth learning to edit. And I think that one of the things that people don't like about editing is that it takes a lot of time away from other things in their lives, not even just doing photography. It's just that they don't want to spend a long time in front of the computer. But I would say I understand that, but I would also counter it by saying, when we look at film, we don't think of people as, oh, why are you wasting your time developing your film? Do you see what I mean? So if we say that, we don't say to people, oh, I can't believe you spent all that time in a darkroom wasting your time developing film. We shouldn't have that attitude towards editing our pictures as well. This is a difficult discussion because there's lots of ifs and maybes and but this and that and so on. Because I get it, if you're shooting high volume work, you don't want to spend a long time on one picture. But I would also say, if you learn to edit well, there is a pleasure and almost a sort of, you can get into a flow state in editing, which is very satisfying. I find it very rewarding and I like seeing the result at the end because this is like developing film. When we're thinking about elements of photography and I include editing in that we perhaps don't initially feel that we're going to like, I think one way we can deal with it is just saying, can I learn to like this? Because if I get better at it, will I like it? If I get faster at it, will I like it? The mindset is what's really important because I think it's almost become fashionable now to have an attitude towards editing that is, oh, I don't like being sat in front of a computer. Well, you know, you probably like being sat in front of YouTube for a long period of time, and you probably like watching movies, and they're really passive. So at least when you're sat in front of a computer editing, you're creating, right? You are creating at that point, and you're not being passive. And the sort of not having time, I get that people don't want to spend forever doing stuff like that, but it's also, what else are you doing with your life? And I know that this is one of those questions that's impossible. There's going to be a lot of you that I hope you can think and perhaps readjust your outlook on what editing is, because editing is the same as someone who develops film in a darkroom, and we wouldn't have that mental approach towards film, and I don't think we should have it towards digital, because digital needs more work than film. I mean, that's just the reality of it. And in the film days, it's easy to think, oh, they were just thinking of the darkroom as a button press. They develop the film and out it comes. No, they were editing everything. Like everything you can do in Photoshop, you can do in a darkroom. It's all the same stuff. You can switch people's heads around. They used to do that in the Victorian days. You can switch skies and backgrounds and put things in that weren't there. You can dodge and burn, airbrushing came from there. All these terms that we know of actually came from the darkroom because people used to do all these things. Now, I'm not saying you should learn all of that. So if you're new to editing and you ask me what I think you should learn at a minimum, is I think you should learn basic raw development, so know how all of the different panels work in Lightroom. And I also think you should at least know how to dodge and burn well. So that is to reshape the lighting in your picture, because that is the very minimum of all of the photos that you look at that are famous, that are well known, have had that done to them. If you're not going to do that, then you're not going to be getting those kind of results that the rest of the photography community, and I'm talking back as far as you want to go in terms of photography, they're all edited. That's just a fact, they're edited. There are very few exceptions, and it's not worth highlighting them, because when you look at the bulk of the work, it is all edited stuff. So you need to learn how to edit and at least dodge and burn, how to do local adjustments. I don't mean just creating a vignette and putting a light spot in the middle. I mean proper dodge and burn, where it's localized different parts of the picture, which you then brighten and darken, and how to do that well. And my last point for you, it is a kind of a broad point that covers all of what we said, is you have to stop caring so much about what people think about you and your work. The feeling of judgment and how people view your work is what holds a lot of people back. The fear of sharing their work, for example, or the fear of what people might think about them, about what they're saying with their work, or anything that goes with that. But I think a lot of it comes from rejection of when we show our work. But this goes back to, class yourself as a beginner if you want to, and just don't have that fear, because everything around us is so temporary as it is. There's no point wasting your time, and the connections from people that can come. I really like talking to all of you because it's really interesting. I've met some really great people on this platform, and I really enjoy that side of it, probably more than anything else. So if you want to send me an email, go to my website, find that, send me an email. And if you like my videos overall, please feel free to buy me a coffee from the link in the description, because it really helps keep this channel going. I mean, it really does help. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care. Bye bye.